Hey gang, it's My. Hope you're ready to have a Bible study today. Here we are in Grand Cayman. It's getting ready to storm here, but I thought I'd give you a little bit of a view of our area. That's our resort up on the hill. Papa's in the rooms. Okay. Anyway, all right, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 22. So, pretty quick. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 22, it says, by faith, Joseph, that's who we're talking about today, when he died, and had mention of the children of Israel, all right, so it really doesn't tell us much about Joseph, so we have to go back to Genesis to find out about Joseph. So I'm really going to just basically tell you the story today. Oh, and we forgot our selfie stick too, so holding it and the wind's holding, so this will be crazy, but Joseph was the 11th son, and he was the favorite son of his father Jacob. And it caused a lot of problems, okay? He came later in life. His father had married several women, and he came later in life, and his older brothers, by the time he was a teenager, 16, 17, his brothers hated him because his father had shown how much he loved him more than the others, which is really bad. And one day, his father gave him a coat of many colors, and he didn't do that for the other sons. Well, the boys hated him, and it just got worse and worse as it went through his life. There came a day when Joseph was given by God some dreams. In one dream, there were corn sheaves, which is what you probably see right now in the fall, where the corn is cut down, and there were 12 of them. His was in the center, and all of the others were bowing down to him. And so he shared it with his brothers. Really? Okay, now this wasn't just a dream. This was a vision from God. So it was prophecy. This was going to happen. His brothers were going to bow down to him someday. So Joseph shared it. Well, his brothers just really hated him for sharing. There were a couple different dreams, and it was all about them bowing down to him. And it wasn't that he was showing off. It's just that he'd gotten this prophecy from God and he was sharing it. Well, his brothers didn't see it that way. So, oh dear, the rain's coming, so we're going to go really fast. So it led to 13 really bad years because his brothers not only hated him, they sold him into slavery. Now, can you imagine hating your brothers and sisters so much that you'd sell them into slavery? Well, that's what his brothers did. They sold him into slavery, and not only sold him into slavery, but then they lied to his dad and said, oh, he was eaten by a wild animal. And they took that coat of many colors and took it to their father and said, see, he was ripped apart by an animal. And here he is being sold off to traders that were driving the camels through. And after that, he was falsely accused of raping Potiphar's wife. And then he was thrown into prison. And then after that, he was totally forgotten by everybody except God didn't forget where he was. God knew all along where Joseph was, and he had a plan for him. So, fast forward quite a long time. Joseph has now been promoted. He's gotten out of prison. He's proved himself to be a fantastic person. And so he got promoted out of prison and became in charge of the prison cell while he was there, and then promoted out of prison. And then finally, the Pharaoh commanded that he be one of the highest besides himself, the second in the kingdom. And so he became in charge of everything in the kingdom. God had not forgotten Joseph. And all those trials, though, did not prove that Joseph was a faithful man. He was a faithful man, and he went through the trials because he had never forgotten that God cared about him. It didn't prove who he was, but it showed who he was to begin with. You need to remember that. When God puts us through hard times, it doesn't make us stronger. It shows who we truly are, okay? So Joseph showed who he truly was. Well, his family still thought he was dead. His father and his mother thought he was dead. His brothers knew that they'd sold him off and figured he had died. And a famine came to their land, and so they had to go to Egypt. And they went to Egypt, not realizing that Joseph was in charge of everything. And here they are. They walk into the palace, and they see this man on the throne and don't recognize him. Don't recognize him at all. And they bowed down to him. Exactly what Joseph had told him. It was in those dreams that he'd had when he was a young kid. They bowed down and they begged him for mercy and begged that he would take care of the family and give them food and protect them during the famine. So now I have to read from you in Genesis chapter 50. That's the last chapter in Genesis. I want you to actually look it up with me. Genesis chapter 50, verses 18. Okay, we're going to start there. And it says, and his brethren, okay, there are his brothers, also went and fell down before his face. They knelt down to him, exactly like he had said would happen. And they said, behold, we be thy servants. Wow, how the tables had turned. And Joseph said unto them, fear not, for I am in the place, am I in the place of God? He said, I'm not God. Stand up. Stop bowing down to me. But as for you, and this is where, excuse me, this is where he shows them who he is. He says, as for you, you thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass as it is this day, to save much people alive. And all of a sudden the boys look up and they realize, oh, this is our brother Joseph. He's going to kill us now for sure. And he didn't. He had mercy on them. And he said, you meant it for bad for me, but God had a plan. And God always has a plan, gang. No matter what we're going through, God always has a plan. And then verse 21, it says, now therefore fear ye not. He saw the fear in their face once they knew who he was. I will nourish you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spake kindly unto them. Can you imagine if your brothers hated you that much, sold you into slavery, you ended up being in prison, and he says, fear not, and he comforts them? Wow, that's really mercy. And then it goes on to talk about it, but I want you to see that in verse 24, it says, and Joseph said unto his brethren, I die. He was an old man by now. He said, I'm dying, and God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land unto the land which he sware to Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob. And Joseph took an oath of the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and he shall carry up my bones from hence. So Joseph died at 110 years old. Being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. But you know, that's not the end of the story. He was put in a coffin, but the Israelites took that coffin with them out of Egypt, carried it with them through the wilderness. And Joseph went on to go into the promised land. Well, his bones did, okay? He didn't. He was already in heaven, taken care of by God. But he went on because God had a plan for him. Gang, God has a plan for you. I hope it's not as bad as Joseph's. I mean, his life was really, really rough. His second half of his life was easy. He was almost next to the Pharaoh in power and in wealth. But God has a plan for you. Follow it. Find it. Do what he wants you to do. And you will be blessed. Just like Joseph. Hopefully even better than Joseph. But God's got a plan. The world may have bad things planned out for you. But God has something better. I love you. I hope you're having a great day. We're getting ready for some storms down here, but it's still kind of beautiful under the palm trees. I love you. Bye-bye.